Okay.
listening to OTCR, the radio station that shines and shares its light with you.
Hello, everybody. We're back. I'm back with the fabulous Rhoda, who happens to be my mother. Mid-80s and stories of war-torn England, Europe, Great Britain, and how it was for her growing up in London. In fact, she doesn't sound like it, but she is a Cockney. And why don't you tell everybody what being a Cockney actually means?
It means that you're born within the sound of Bow Bells.
What's Bow Bells?
It's a church,
right,
in the heart of London, and you drop your H's, and my mother couldn't bear that, so I was sent to elocution classes. That's why I'm not a true.
All right. So so a sentence that, and there's also Cockney slang, isn't there? Like apples and pears mean stairs.
Yes.
And what would dropping your H's sound like to somebody from America? Would it be like My Fair Lady when she says, hello, yeah. Governor?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. You know, have a penny.
Have a penny. Yeah. Sit down. Sit down and have a glass of water.
That's right.
So as well as that, tell me what you did. Tell all of us, what was it like to grow up? What did you do? Like, we watch TV, we play with electronic games, we talk to each other on iPhones and iPads and Skype. What did you do?
We listened to the radio every weekend because my father shut the shop on Saturdays, and family would come round and we'd have games round the dining room table. We had a very big room above the shop that was the whole length and width of the shop, and massive table. Sat, I think, 14 people.
Wow.
And the family would come round. We'd have games like chase.
Which was a card game.
Oh, yes. It was always card games. It was all different games.
Did you gamble for money?
No. It was family.
Okay, well, some people might have gambled for money.
No, it was family. And also, when there was a birthday of my brother or I, there was only 2 years and 2 days difference, we would move the furniture against the wall and we'd dance to Victor Sylvester, who was a very, very big favourite in England. I don't know if you heard of America, but we used to teach each other to dance.
What kind of music? Was it swing band kind of music?
No, it was ballroom. Waltz, foxtrot, quick step.
Okay.
There was no salsa then or anything like, or samba.
Right.
It wasn't anything like that.
So nice, simple times. And
Yes.
Family meals, do people, like nowadays, people bring potluck, which means everybody brings a dish. Was it like that then?
No.
So who did all the food?
My mother and my grandmother cooked the food. And when we went to my aunt, she also had a big old-fashioned house. And my uncle had a fish shop where he made fish and chips. And he would bring home on a Saturday fish. And my aunt, who'd made a little kitchen in the main room, would be frying the fish, and we'd all sit round and have fish and chips. And downstairs in the basement was a table tennis table. And the men would go downstairs and have a game of table tennis while the women sat upstairs chatting, as women do.
How fun.
It was. No. My mother loved the theatre. And on a Wednesday afternoon, she would go to a matinee and come back to cook us all a meal while I was at school. And on a Saturday, my father would go to a Turkish bath and my mother would go to a cinema in the afternoon and a theatre in the evening, and they'd meet up and come home.
Tell everybody what a Turkish bath was.
Well, it's a steam room. It's like a sauna.
Like a wet sauna or a dry sauna?
A dry sauna. And he had a loofah. They would put soap on it and swish it over his body while he lay on the table to clean him, and he would sweat like hell.
Yuck, that sounds attractive, doesn't it?
He
God.
loved it.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't his person washing him with a bloody... That doesn't sound attractive at all. Okay. So this sweaty guy is being swished?
Yes.
Sweaty guys?
No, by attendants, not from...
But male attendants?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that feels a bit better than having to do it, from a woman's point of view. But and then the theatres were mostly musicals and light-hearted and...
He went to anything.
What about your theatre experiences? Oh, tell people some of the interesting people that you saw before they became famous that we've all heard of.
Oh, right. Let me think. It was...
Streisand, Danny Kaye.
Oh, yes. Now, Danny Kaye was my favourite. Well, he was at the London Palladium on a Sunday night, and I couldn't get tickets, so what I did was I went in with a crowd of people, went to the ladies, and stayed there till the show started.
Oh, you sneaky one. You snuck in.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
And he was so popular, there were people standing against the wall, and I stood with them. And he went on, and he didn't finish till 12 o'clock at night, when all the trains had finished and all the buses had finished, and I had to walk from the west end of London to the east end of London, which was about 8, 9, it was about 10 miles. And because I was a bit scared, I walked in the middle of the road all the way home.
Wow.
And
What about Barbara Streisand? You got to see her before she was famous, didn't you?
yes, I saw her in Funny Girl, Barbara Streisand. Yes, she came to London and she wasn't famous yet. And my mother had 2 tickets and she was going to see it. And my grandmother died and she couldn't go. So she gave me the tickets. And I went, yes. And I walked, I'm trying to think of his name. Howard Keel. I walked him from the theatre to his hotel. Because I was a stage door Johnny. I had an autograph book full of famous people. Yes. He was lovely. Oh, really? I know I've seen nearly all Danny Kaye's films. I loved him.
Yeah, but how lovely to see Barbara Streisand at her beginning of her career too.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah. So, and you actually got to see Frank Sinatra as well, didn't you, before he became an older man?
Yes. My daughter got my husband and I tickets for the Royal Albert Hall. He was there, and we were sitting on the stage. They'd put seats at the side of the stage because it sold out, and there were so many people wanting to see him. And he was singing, and he came over and gave us a big wink. It was lovely. It was lovely. Yes.
So nice memories. And London in those days, the theatres were beautiful, weren't they? Plush seats and
yes.
gorgeous decorations. Was it affordable? Because now it's terribly expensive.
It was affordable. When you was on your 7th birthday, we got a box. My mother.
Yep, I know. I remember it.
You and your sister.
We went to see Anne of Green Gables.
That's right.
Yep.
And we sat in the royal box. That was the first theatre Ruth went to.
And I still remember it because it was clear. It was Anne of Green Gables and she had a dog in the show, in the story, and she walked this beautiful golden retriever onto the stage. And I still remember the show and the dog and the whole thing because it was just this magical evening. You know, the lights all get turned down and you're sitting there in a fancy box. You feel like the Queen. You're wearing your best dress. And I think I wore a velvet dress. He was there and it was magical. So, yes, London's still like that for me. But, of course, theatre prices are now horribly expensive. But the shows are still just as magical as they always were. It still is a magic place to go. So, anything else you want to...
Oh, I saw Nureyev, the ballet dancer.
Oh, you saw Rudolph Nureyev?
Yes.
Wow.
With Margot Fontaine dancing...
The Nutcracker?
No, the Swan Lake.
Swan Lake. And did he really leap that high?
Amazing. He was amazing, and she was so slight and small, and oh, it was lovely.
It's funny because one of my clients was a ballet dancer for the New York Ballet, and of course I was her massage therapist and healer, and she used to come in walking like a blinking duck with her feet out.
That's right.
And my job was to get her feet straight so she could walk like a normal person, and it was quite It was quite a challenge. So although it was beautiful that she did this incredible ballet, we had to try and get like a duck.
Yes, played feet.
So for me it was like, oh God, here we go. I've got the ballet dancer, and other people would think it was marvelous. And I think, oh my God, my work is cut out for me. But it was sweet. Anything else you want? I know we're coming closer to our time. Is there anything else you'd like to? Yeah, well, I'd love to just end this time talking about the foods. So nowadays, when you say to a kid, here's a chicken McNugget, they don't necessarily know where that it actually belonged to a blinking chicken. And at your time, you really knew where your food came from, didn't you? Do you want to explain how you ate and how you prepared food then?
Well, we very rarely went out to eat because my grandmother, who lived with us, did most of the cooking. And being Jewish, we were very kosher. So we used to go to the shops that sold the Jewish food. I remember one shop which was very famous for smoked salmon. And my mother used to go around behind the counters because she knew the people that owned it. He would give me all the bits with bones that you threw away for me to salmon off of, and I used to love that. I used to love it when she went there.
It sounds horrible to us don't like smoked salmon, but probably lovely for
you. Oh,
you.
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was the best smoked salmon in the whole of London, I think. He was very famous.
What about the fact that your mum kept a chicken in the garden?
Oh, well, because we only had of meats per person a week, Mother decided, in her wisdom, to get some chickens and have them in the garden so that when we had company, we could kill one and make a nice chicken dinner. And one day we chased this blooming chicken round and round the yard till my grandmother decided to throw a sack at it. We took it to the slaughterhouse and I watched it, and I need chicken that weekend.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm a vegetarian from that story. Wow, that didn't make you into a vegetarian. I know, that would make me into a vegetarian. Do that for you, though. You still eat chicken.
Yeah.
But yes, a really different world, huh? Yeah, was the salmon your favourite? Smoked salmon?
Yes, still is.
It still is. She still likes her smoked salmon sandwich. My mum likes to eat something that really disgusts me. Actually, it's called tongue. She eats something, and it's like, oh my God, I just can't even imagine. But she loves it. Yeah, I get a little bit tongue-tied. Like, ooh, gross. It makes me even more of a vegetarian than ever. But each to his own.
Liver.
Yeah, she used to make the most disgusting liver, bless her, that was so rubbery that you'd got more luck chewing the bottom of your shoe. Yep, it was definitely her thing. But it was overcooked and absolutely dreadful. I couldn't do it. Didn't like the consistent flavour of it, and I'm so happy that I don't not touch that stuff. Haven't touched it since I was a kid. But it's funny the things you grow up with. So I really appreciate all these stories. It's so lovely to talk to somebody who's lived a few years. And I think if I had a message to all our listeners, Sprinkles, I would suggest to everybody to go to the elders in your life and ask them questions so that you can learn about their lives, because one day they won't be walking with us here physically, and then we'll miss all those lovely stories that we've gotten to hear tonight, that we've gotten to share. And precious. Yes, that's a really good way. But the trouble is that tells you the history, but it doesn't tell you the stories that go in with that history too much. It gives you an outline, but it won't tell you about how somebody chased a chicken around the yard or sat down to dinner with 14 people at a table, you know.
And also with my family, they'd have a job. Father came from Poland and my mother came from Russia when the pogroms were on. So I could never find any of my ancestors.
Because their names were on.
They changed my father's birthday because they couldn't understand what month it was.
Oh.
So we don't know how he died.
Wow, really? So they changed the actual year of his birth and everything?
Everything. They couldn't read his birth certificate.
Did he know when he was born?
No.
Oh, wow. I'm sure that was really common in America as well. Well, you know, my family, when they landed in England, they were hoping to get to America and the ship stopped in the UK. I think they were a bit disappointed that they didn't get to the States, right? So it was like, oh crap, we've stopped in the wrong country. So I was the first to migrate to America and become an American. And so, of course, now I hold dual nationality. And, of course, I'm in one of the countries that's allowed to go backwards. And, you know, we've got some strange rules these days. And so I carry the British and the American passport. So it's really good. But yes, my ancestors thought they were landing in America and the boat stopped a little short. Stopped in England. Yeah. I know. I was like, oops, wrong country. Oh, well, getting off here anyway. Fantastic. Okay. So, Mum, if you had last words of wisdom to share with all our listeners, what would you tell them?
Enjoy every day as if it's your last and see only the best in other people.
Yeah, good words of wisdom. You know, there's a movie that I recently watched. It's called About Time. It talks about this very thing. It's really lovely because it talks about and proposes that we make the most of every day and make every day really special. And half of that is our attitude in which we stand in the day that we're in, much more than whatever the day holds. It's about how we're standing in it, regardless of what it holds. So I agree with that. So, lovely. Okay, well, so you can find me on Healer Ruth. You can find me on Ruth, the holisticsoulhealer.com. Ruth at the holisticsoulhealer.com if you want to email me any questions or suggestions. Next week's show, same time, same channel, next Thursday, I'm going to tell you some stories of my days of healing. I'm going to talk about the places I've been, the people I've met. I've got so many stories to share. So next week is going to be me and you. Put your feet up, sit by a fire if you're in somewhere cold, and sit by an open window if you're fantastic stories that will knock your socks off. So that's going to be our week next week.